I really enjoyed the small town community here. Everyone's real friendly. It's a great place to grow and educate myself. So thanks for all the good memories. Good luck.
Feels like a good, smooth transition coming out of St. John's. It's prepared you for the world, and it's just the next move. It's not the end.
One, two, three. Go Johnnies!
Well, it still doesn't really feel like I've graduated yet. I'm still kind of in denial, but it's kind of nice. I'm gonna miss this place for sure.
Let us pray. Loving and gracious God, we give you thanks for all the gifts that you have bestowed on us, especially for those people who have made this day possible. Energetic and committed students, generous parents and benefactors, and devoted faculty, staff, and administrators. Guide us with your wisdom and strengthen us in your service and the service of all your people. We ask this through Jesus, our risen Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever. Amen. Please be seated. As Chancellor of St. John's University, on behalf of the sponsoring Benedictine community and in the name of the Board of Regents, I herewith call into session this commencement convocation at the conclusion of our 151st year of the conferring of academic degrees granted by this university. I request Brother Dietrich Reinhardt, President of the university, to take charge of these exercises.
Good afternoon. This is a day of glad and joyful celebration. St. John's University has kept this day each spring since its founding before the Civil War. At commencement, we call to mind the core purpose of this university, the cultivation of the intellect through study of the liberal arts and graduate theological disciplines, the cultivation of the intellect within a distinct experience of community which draws on the deepest wellsprings of human culture, fosters understanding of human interdependence, and calls forth full, integrated lives of faith and reason, action and love. On this joyful day, in this long-hallowed place, you, the class of 2008, enter a long stream of St. John's graduates who gathered together one last time to celebrate how their lives had been enlarged by what they had learned here, by the teaching and mentoring of professors known by their first name, by the cultivation of friendship and solitude, prayer and service, by the sheer beauty of this place and its power to anchor a whole life's journey. The past several years, the St. John's community spent a lot of time celebrating the 150th anniversary of our founding. At the end of the monk's first decade, back in the 1860s, a young monk in his 30s from out east was elected the first abbot of St. John's. But he'd never been here. He'd yet to see this place called Collegeville. Months later, he arrived. And that night he wrote this in his diary. One building, 50 by 65, in the bowels of the woods, not entirely plastered, without furniture, room for the imagination to supply what is needed. From the start, St. John's has been about imagination. As the martyred Archbishop Oscar Romero once said, we plant seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We provide yeast that produces effects far beyond our capability. Commencement is a time to celebrate imagination. The parents in today's assembly know what I mean. The people who've loved today's graduates since before they can even pronounce their own names. I've always thought the faculty and administration wear these quaint, but truth be told, somewhat ridiculous outfits today, because today is one of the days in which we have to admit that there is more going on in teaching and service than readily meets the eye. Today, together, we join in a ritual that places us outside time a bit, so we can concentrate our minds on this group of remarkable graduates who are embarked upon a trajectory greater than any of us can comprehend. Persons whom we regard today with full and joyful hearts because of achievements of learning and personal growth. Persons ready to move into the future. Beloved persons whose lives have been transformed beyond reckoning because they risked the hard work of thinking these last years, venturing out of their comfort zone time and again to gain knowledge, to cultivate a truer sense of self, and hone the capacity to make a difference in the world. The ritual of commencement brings before us for a brief moment the habits of mind, the capacity for wonder, the inbreaking of truth, which result from the great, amiable conversation of ideas, which is at the heart of this Catholic and Benedictine liberal arts community. Scarcely any one of us will remember much of this event, but it will live on to sustain the deepest truths of our lives. It is fitting that we enter into the heart of this commencement with the address by a member of the class of 2008 who's been selected by his classmates. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tom Conley.
Good afternoon. Welcome to St. John's on this beautiful spring day in the sesquicentennial of the state of Minnesota. Now you all see what we Johnnies have known for 4 years. The sun truly does shine a little brighter here in Collegeville. It brings me great joy to see all of my friends and professors, administrators, together gathered in these stiff robes and strange hats to celebrate Mother's Day? Today is May 11th. Happy Mother's Day, Mom and Grandma. I love you very much. Certainly today is a day to celebrate mothers, grandmothers, and all important women who touch our lives. In this spirit of celebration, we have all gathered together, fathers, families, friends, professors, and mentors of all kinds. They have come to help us, the 2008 class of St. John's University and the St. John's School of Theology, celebrate this memorable occasion. Oddly enough, my first memory of central Minnesota is not at St. John's, but at St. Ben's. It's not what you're thinking. I wasn't escorted out of a first-year dorm. My memory is from 1991 when I was 5 years old, and my sister Kelly was contemplating attending the College of St. Benedict. Before I destroyed the president's desk with a permanent marker, which I apparently did, my dad and I went for a walk, and we ended up outside the St. Ben's fish pond by the main. And I can still see myself to this day peering over that fence, that giant fence, looking at all those goldfish. 17 years later, I now peer over an even bigger fence at all of you. I know I have grown quite a bit, and from the looks of it, my classmates have grown too. Specifically because of St. John's, we have grown in a number of significant ways. First, of course, we grew intellectually. Countless hours in the library and the science lab have made us curious and academically engaged. I can't tell you how many nights I walked back to my apartment at 2 a.m. only to meet multiple Johnnies on the way home and find my roommate, Sean Finley, still up studying. We also grew in community and relationships. From day one, living in Tommy Hall or Mary Hall, to off-campus housing as a junior or senior in St. Joe, we were surrounded by those we came to know and love. We have made countless friends, many of which we say goodbye to today. Finally, we grew in experience. Our experience at St. John's has taught us a new language. It's not Spanish or Chinese, but instead a more distinctive Collegeville dialect. It is the language of the heart. After 4 years together, we speak it easily and fluently each time we pass by each other, share a story, or sit down for a meal. This genuine care for our fellow being, the language of Collegeville, will stay with us forever, beyond time, age, even death. When I graduated from high school, I thought I had discovered the meaning of it all, what I wanted to do, and what I stood for. I was wrong, because here at St. John's, that attitude was erased and replaced with this unique tongue. Now, rigid thought and religious dogma have given way to something much simpler, much deeper. Collegeville Speak provides a new formula for happiness in deep, loving friendship and a sense of living, truly living in this very moment. So take in this moment and live it. Savor it, for never again will this diverse group be gathered together. Rejoice, be thankful, and maybe even shed a tear. But don't cry too much. Just soak up this moment, because when you cry, you simply get wet. Thanks, Grandpa. Speaking of wet, wetting a line, also known as fishing, is a passion of mine. Many fishers are in pursuit of the catch of a lifetime. Over time, that process changes. Limiting out or reeling in the big one isn't so important. Now, when I go fishing, it isn't just about catching. I more enjoy being on the water, watching someone else fish, and seeing joy in their eye after a catch. In this same way, we as Johnnies have changed. We know the most important moment of our young lives is happening right now. Instead of keeping it to ourselves, we share this moment with other people. We pass on the Spirit and bring joy to someone else's life. Thus, our graduation today and our memories of St. John's have become the catch of a lifetime, a catch we will carry into our future and whatever lies beyond. Clearly, these 4 years have laid the foundation for the kind of people we can be: happy, caring, loving, and actively engaged. This is the language of Collegeville. From here we go forth, speaking. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today. And before I close, I would like to say thank you to all who have made this day possible. My parents, my grandmother, my family, my friends, my professors, administrators. Special thanks to Matt Callahan, my symposium professor, for sacrificing so much of his time working with me on this address. Young men from St. John's and young men and women from the St. John's School of Theology, today we walk out of this church and under the bell banner one last time as the class of 2008. 4 years ago, we came as individuals. Today, we leave as one, a collective group, a community of Johnnies, living, working, and speaking a language that will propel and sustain us from this moment forward. Finally, I know it will be said many times today, but congratulations to the class of 2008. Blessings to you all.
If you are lucky, you have visited the Science Museum of Minnesota many times. And if you live in or near the Twin Cities, it is likely to be on your must-do list for those times when you have out-of-town visitors, especially the kind with young and inquiring minds. Among the nation's largest and most highly esteemed science museums, the Science Museum of Minnesota develops and presents educational programs, films, and exhibits for 1.3 million people in the upper Midwest each year. And it reaches millions more around the world through its traveling programs. Today, it is my great privilege to honor the president of this vital institution, Dr. Eric Jolly, with an honorary doctorate. Since assuming the presidency in 2004, Dr. Jolly has overseen steady growth in annual attendance, including the most highly attended year in the museum's history and the most popular exhibit to date in the Twin Cities, Body Worlds, which drew more than 750,000 visitors. Dr. Jolly, who assumed the presidency in 2004, is widely known for his contributions to mathematics and science education. He frequently works with such groups as the American Association for the Advancement of Science, National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering, National Council for Teachers of Mathematics, and the National Science Teachers Association. Dr. Jolly was a founding partner of the National Project Collaboration for Equity, Fairness in Science and Mathematics Education, and co-director of Access by Design, a technology project of the National Science Foundation. He serves on numerous national advisory boards, including the Mathematics Sciences Education Board of the National Academies of Science, and is a member and past chair of the Committee on Opportunities in Science for the American Association of the Advancement of Science. He also serves on several local boards, including the Board of Directors of the Minnesota Private Colleges Council and the St. Paul Convention and Visitors Authority. Dr. Jolly has published scholarly articles and lectured throughout the world. He's also the author of numerous books, articles, and curricula for students and teachers across the educational spectrum. His curricula are currently used in more than 16 countries and an estimated 400,000 classrooms worldwide. Prior to joining the Science Museum of Minnesota, Dr. Jolly served as senior scientist and vice president of Education Development Center in Newton, Massachusetts from 1995 to 2004. Before that, he held numerous academic posts at Indiana State University, the University of Rhode Island, the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and Eastern New Mexico University. Dr. Jolly is a member of several honor societies and is a life member of the Society for Advancement of Chicanos and Native Americans in Science. He has a PhD in psychology from the University of Oklahoma and studied physics and psychology as an undergraduate. As an institution with a deep commitment to the scientific exploration of the wonders of God's universe, St. John's University admires and applauds Dr. Jolly for a career devoted to sharing the joy and importance of science with a wide and diverse community. Dr. Jolly, will you please come forward? Eric Jolly, you set a towering standard for Science Museum directors, combining impeccable scholarly credentials with an extraordinary ability to tell the science stories that make Minnesota's museum an invaluable resource and enjoyable experience. From your high school years when you won an international science fair, to college and graduate school where you learned to communicate with chimpanzees while you earned a doctorate in psychology, to your position as senior scientist and vice president of Education Development Center where you oversaw 3 major divisions, to your current position where you welcome and enlighten 1.3 million visitors of all ages annually. You have demonstrated a deep commitment to expanding both the boundaries of scientific knowledge and access to that knowledge for all. While fulfilling these extensive responsibilities with exuberance and energy, you also give your time to numerous organizations devoted to furthering science and math education for all, particularly for youth, families, and communities. You continue to publish books and articles to help the educational establishment improve science and mathematics education, including the recent article, Engagement, Capacity, and Continuity, a trilogy for student success. Yourself the inheritor of a threatened Native American heritage, learning to speak Cherokee from your father, who learned it from his father, and garnering national attention for your Cherokee basket weaving, you have a keen sensitivity to each generation's obligation to steward knowledge and resources for the generations that will follow. This is evident in both the passion you show for conserving Minnesota's priceless scientific treasures and your desire to help these treasures reveal their stories through exciting and relevant exhibits. We honor you today as a nationally recognized educator, author, and leader who has worked tirelessly to share the joy and wonder of science with a wide and diverse community, and confer upon you, Dr. Eric J. Jolly, the Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, on this 11th day of May, 2008.
Mr. President, Chancellor, families, honored guests, graduates. When we meet, in my language, we say, Osio dohitsu. It's a question we ask the youngest of children, and its translation isn't, hi, how are you? Fine, thank you very much. It is, are you full of joy? And if you meet a young person who is not, then your task is to help them that day find their joy. In this recognition, in being in your presence, I am honored, I am humbled, I am full of joy. I am thankful for the moment to look back on my past, but I am overjoyed and humbled to stand, graduates, with you. For you are messengers to a future I will not see. Indeed, you are messengers to a future that many of us may not see. And your faculty, your parents, your supporters have invested in you, in faith, with hope for a future that you will change. And today, that I may stand with you in earning your degrees, gives me hope and faith for the future that I will not see. And I want to thank you for the gifts that you will give to that future, and to tell you that in your presence and with your hope, I am full of joy. Thank you.
It is a great pleasure to introduce Dr. William Greene, the Superintendent of the Minneapolis Public Schools, a school district responsible for more than 36,370 students in 45 elementary schools, 7 middle schools, 7 high schools, 8 special education schools, 8 alternative schools, 19 contract alternative schools, and 5 charter schools. The district's student population is highly diverse, with more than 90 languages spoken in homes. Most district communications are printed in English, Hmong, Spanish, and Somali. In other words, the superintendent of this district has a very big job. Dr. Greene entered his current position from a successful professorial career at Augsburg College. He's also taught here at St. John's University, the College of St. Benedict, and at Vanderbilt University. In 1999, the Minnesota Journal of Law and Politics named Dr. Greene one of the smartest 100 people in Minnesota. Dr. Greene has contributed more than 30 articles to the scholarly and popular press. In 2007, the Minnesota Historical Society Press published his first book, A Peculiar Imbalance: The Rise and Fall of Racial Equality in Early Minnesota. He is currently working on a fuller 3-volume history of civil rights in Minnesota. Dr. Greene draws on an unusual combination of expertise across the disciplines of history, education, and law from his array of degrees, making him an able professor of American legal history, the history of civil rights, Minnesota history, history of African American religion, African American experience, and the history of African American education. In addition to his career in higher education and writing, Dr. Greene has dedicated his life to the greater good, serving over the years in a variety of public task forces and boards devoted to education and civic life. Among these was elected membership on the board of directors of the Minneapolis Public Schools from 1993 to 2001, where he served as chair of the board from 1996 to 1998. In this day and age, urban public education is often a politically charged and contentious sphere. Since taking the reins, however, Dr. Greene has brought stability, vision, and great administrative talent to the task, bringing together this diverse and challenging district. We esteem him as an inspirational educational leader who has led a life of personal scholarship and extraordinary service to the community. Dr. Greene, will you please come forward? Dr. William Greene, by your leadership of the Minneapolis Public Schools, first as an elected school board member and currently as superintendent of schools, you teach us about navigating strong currents, developing a clear vision of improvement, and believing in its possibility. You assumed the reins of leadership during a time of crisis and instability. You have since brought stability and laid the groundwork for a responsive, collaborative, and effective school system for this major urban school district. by your own impressive educational accomplishments, including both doctorate and Juris Doctor degrees. You demonstrate the value of education and the rich rewards of crossing disciplinary boundaries. You studied history, psychology, education, and law, and you have applied them all in service to both scholarship and the greater good. By your prolific writing, including books and articles, you lead us to explore the complexity of race relations with new eyes and fresh historical perspective. You give us a powerful framework for addressing the challenges of the 21st century. By your own teaching of students in classrooms at Augsburg College and the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University, you witness to the power of history for both defining our pasts and freeing our spirits. Your resume is packed with awards and recognitions, attesting to your outstanding success and extraordinary service to the community. Today, we add our gratitude and recognition to this impressive list and confer upon you Dr. William D. Greene, the Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, on this 11th day of May, 2008.
Tom, you should be up here speaking. He did such a wonderful job. The easy part is being superintendent. The hard part is accepting this recognition. This is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gift, and I'm deeply humbled by your recognition. Thank you so much for this.
And now for the commencement address.
I'm back. I love talking about my schools. I do wish to thank Brother Dietrich, Board of Regents, the Chancellor, the Commencement Committee, for giving me the privilege to speak to you, the graduating class of 2008. I have worn many hats in my life. Some of you know me as your adjunct history, a professor of history, a role I enjoyed immensely and one to which I hope someday to return. But outside the St. John's classroom, I served, as you know, on the Minneapolis School Board and now superintendent of the district. It is from that collective experience that I want to share with you my conviction that people of different colors and classes who have divergent interests can work through rancor to come together. That indeed adversity itself can provide fertile ground needed for the flowering of hope and progress. Throughout my time working for Minneapolis Public Schools, I have come to view school governance, Minneapolis style, as a contact sport that was often played in the arena of racial and class politics, where institutional frustration and guilt for failing to close the achievement gap between black and white children allowed the race card to trump reason and class privilege to check equity. For people of color and poverty, rancor was the accepted form of grievance against a school system that could not resolve problems that were outside its control. Poor housing conditions and foreclosure, unemployment, health concerns, crime, racism, and a black teenage boy's fatalistic belief that he wasn't going to live beyond the 18th year all conspired against a child's motivation to learn. On my first day as superintendent, I attended the funeral of a black boy who had been murdered. Within another 24 hours, 2 more in unrelated incidences also died violently. There were simply too many problems facing the black community, and those in positions best situated to effect fundamental change, city, county, state, and federal officials, seemed to the community indistinguishable and remote. But 807 Broadway, the headquarters of the school district, was easy to get to. It was on a bus route, and anger had to go somewhere. At the same time, on the other end of the spectrum, an exceedingly small but forceful band of middle-class whites insisted that unless, quote, those low-performing kids, close quote, were kept out of certain classes, they would leave the district and take their revenues with them. Those threats more frequently came not by demonstrations, but by phone calls to political figures who wanted change, except when it affected friends and constituents. That Minneapolis, I believe, is the old Minneapolis. Indeed, over the past couple years, there have been many changes and the challenges have become more complicated. Yet, paradoxically, while huge and in some instances unprecedented problems exist, we have begun to work through the rancor. We face a $13 million shortfall this fall and a $22 million shortfall next fall. Buildings need to be sold, transportation costs are rising, the achievement gap persists. And even though our enrollment will increase this fall by 300 new students, we expect a decrease in the near future. All the while, MPS students have become more diverse. Indeed, 70% of our kids are of color and poor in a city where 80% of the households are white and have no children in any school whatsoever. 90 languages are indeed spoken in the district, and nearly 30% of our children, that's 30% of our children, go home to families who don't speak English. And still, despite it all, rancor has diminished. You see, at risk of sounding trite, we are beginning to see all of these children as our children who will help us create a school system that prepares the next generation to enter the global community. Because of the sacrifice and hard work, we now see trends of academic achievement, although we have yet a long way to go. Through the rancor, we have incredible teachers who understood the need to contribute to change when they accepted a contract that broke from a 37-year precedent, principals who committed themselves to collaborate with teachers and parents and embrace a heightened sense of accountability, and a community that could have been divided along every conceivable fault line, but instead remained determined to stay together for the sake of the kids. Let me say that again. Stay together for the sake of the kids. For the sake of the kids and future of Minnesota's economic vitality, the business community has asked how it can help. For the sake of the kids, colleges and universities have met us more than halfway in making post-secondary education a reality for those who never saw it in their future. For the sake of the kids, all of the parents and neighbors who have no kids at all are coming together to raise revenue so that school reform can be advanced. What is happening in Minneapolis inspires me to believe that we can fashion a society that can work through its adversities, and you have it within yourselves to be our leaders. As complex as the problems are, whether educational or otherwise, and as intractable as people seem, due to grievances real or imagined, you have it in yourselves to be the generation that brings us together so that truly no one is left behind. You have been blessed with an education from a truly great university. So do go forth with your diploma, but not before thanking those who got you to this moment. Explore the world. Make your fortune. Enjoy both exuberant and small, quiet moments. Wisely choose, and this is the important thing, wisely choose a life partner and commit to her fully. But never forget that there are those who need you to share your gifts. That thing inside you that you brought to St. John's in your first year, the thing that was a repository and remains to be a repository of your gifts, that was provoked, shaped, and nurtured here, is the thing that can uplift the soul and inspire courage and purpose. The thing that can imbue you with the capacity to see through the rancor to the human potential that binds us all together. The kind of thing that sees every child as our own. Thank you very much.
The Pax Christi Award is the highest honor presented by St. John's Abbey and University. It is given to individuals who have distinguished themselves by lives that exemplify the ideals of St. Benedict. Archbishop Elias Shakur of the Melkite Greek Church is the first Israeli to be ordained a Catholic bishop and the first Hebrew-speaking Archbishop of Galilee. When he was 8 years old, his family and fellow villagers were driven from their homes in the village of Biram in Upper Galilee in British Palestine. They remained in the region, however, and Father Shakur became an Israeli citizen in 1948 when the state was created. He has devoted his life to education and peace, particularly peace between Israelis and Palestinians. As a young priest, Father Shakur founded the Mar Elias Educational Institutions, an interfaith school and university which now serves thousands of young Israelis of all faiths and ethnicities. The Latin words Pax Christi mean peace of Christ. We recognize in the Most Reverend Elias Shakur a man of faith who has made the peace of Christ living and real for all seekers. We rejoice in the gifts of the Holy Spirit that he has shared so generously and without counting the cost. Archbishop Shakur, would you please stand? Archbishop Elias Shakur, in the year 2006, you became the first Israeli citizen to be named a bishop and the first Hebrew-speaking archbishop of Akka, Haifa, Nazareth, and all of Galilee. While acknowledging strained relationships among Arab, Jewish, and Muslim neighbors, you asserted your determination to be, quote, a moderating voice in a conflict that has spilled too much blood, close quote. Yours has always been a steady voice of moderation in the cause of achieving Christ's peace in one of the world's most troubled corners. When you were 8 years old, you and your entire village became deportees and refugees in your own country, the Palestine of your birth. Many of your countrymen were killed. An exile in your native land, you began a lifelong commitment to peace among all peoples, but especially between your Jewish neighbors, whom you love and honor, and your fellow Palestinians, who remain widely misunderstood in a troubled world. Rejecting division and bitterness, you found inspiration in the words of Jesus, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Always an activist for peace, you soon became known as an apostle for nonviolent social change. As a young priest of the Melkite Greek Catholic Church, you began your pastoral work in Ibelin, Galilee, living in your car for a time as your small congregation grew. Knowing that peace and understanding flow from learning and communication, and aware of the limited educational opportunities for Palestinian students beyond the 8th grade, you began to shape a dream of an academic program for young people of all ages and beliefs. Today, nearly 30 years after you founded Mar Elias Educational Institutes, the schools now offer education from kindergarten through college and enroll 4,500 students from all major religions and ethnicities in Israel. The faculties are equally diverse. In your 2 books, Blood Brothers and We Belong to the Land, you have told the story of your quest to promote learning and reconciliation. Today, we join others who have honored you for your response to the scriptural message of peace. Your awards include the World Methodist Peace Award, the Nawano Peace Prize, and the Mediterranean Peace Award. You have been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times. Peace needs no contemplators, you have said. It needs actors, people who are willing to get their hands dirty, to get up and do something. Because you got up and did something, we applaud you, and with esteem and gratitude present you, Most Reverend Elias Shakur, Archbishop of Akka, Haifa, Nazareth, and all of Galilee, with our highest honor, the Pax Christi Award, on this 11th day of May, 2008, in omnibus glorificetur Deus.
I wish my students, very especially the Palestinian students, would be here beside me to see one of the most beautiful faces of America. You are such a beautiful face of this great country. We don't know you. We wish to know you. Your weapons and dollars do not reflect your reality. I am so honored to stand here. And the first thing I say is thank you. I am a walking contradiction. I am a Palestinian, a very proud Palestinian. I have nothing to be ashamed of being Palestinian. I'm a Palestinian Arab. My mother language is this very easy to learn Arabic language. Why do you laugh? I know you Americans are not very skilled to learn languages. But if you come back with me within a week to Galilee, you will see that even our young kids speak Arabic. If they do so, why can't you, ladies and gentlemen? Palestinian Arab, I am also a Christian Palestinian Arab. Thank God I was not born Christian. I don't know what about you, students, faculty, monks, and everybody at St. John's. Were you born Christians or you were like me? I was born a babe. But not any baby. I was created on the image with the likeness of God. I became Christian not long ago. For us Palestinian Christians, time is considered differently from what you do. It's not minutes, seconds, hours. For us, 1,000 years are like one day before the Lord. What are 2,000 years? The day before yesterday. My countryman, Jesus Christ, was hanging around in our villages with our boys and girls, with our elderly, with our shepherds. He watched everything we were doing and took all of that and made of them the parables of the kingdom of heaven. It's then that I was converted to Christianity 2008 years ago, the day of the Pentecost. All those gathered there were my ancestors, my grandparents. Some of them were Jewish. I say that without any pride and without any shame, simply because Jews are but human beings. Some of them were Greeks, some were Romans, and some were Arabs. There was no American the day of the Pentecost there. It's very late after that we brought you the good news that for those in him, there should be no privilege for Jew against Gentile. I wish 70 years ago, some enlightened, courageous Christian leader would have stood up and said that can be true, that there is privilege for German against Jew. And we are still waiting today for someone with the same courage to stand up and to say there can't be privilege for Jew against Palestinian. Unless they walk hand in hand, they will continue hanging beside each other. And we do not want that. Palestinian Arab Christian, to complete the picture, I am also a citizen of the state of Israel. I respect all the sides of my affiliation. These contradictions, we are trying to convert them to become a kind of complementarity among them so that we can build unity for the future, where Jew and Palestinian can remember how they used to live together before 60 years ago. I am your forgotten brother. I'm your ignored brother. I inherited the label of dirt. Our children like yours are born without any stone in their hands. They are grown up in complete deprivation. And I urge you today, on behalf of all Palestinian children in the refugees camps and elsewhere, if you have Jewish friends, if you sympathize with Jewish fanatical people, if you sympathize with Jews in the settlements, I beg you, please continue to provide friendship for your Jewish friends. They need your friendship now more than ever before, but for God's sake, stop interpreting your friendship to the Jews as being an automatic antipathy against the Palestinians. And if by any chance you have been in the Middle East, you have been plunged into the suffering of the Palestinians, you have realized how much the Palestinians are paying the bill to quiet down the bad conscience of the Western world, and you decided to take our side. Oh, bless you. Why not? Take our side. For once you will be on the right side. But ladies and gentlemen, if taking our side would mean to encourage us to continue with hatred against the Jews, or to show understanding for violent acts that are done by some despairing Palestinians, if your friendship would show such understanding, then please know it, we do not need your friendship. Because in becoming one-sided for the ones against the others, you are not building bridges, you are continuing helping to build walls of separation. And peace needs no walls. Peace needs bridges, many bridges, to hide every wall of separation. We invite you with all the instance of our love for you, our respect for your dignity and for your self-esteem. Don't reduce yourself to become one more enemy, but become one more common friend. Otherwise, we will continue, unfortunately, to kill each other, and that is most ungodly. God does not kill. Does not kill the Jew or the Palestinian. God does not kill at all. God is the provider of life, of hope. And I urge you, mainly the class of 2008, to remember that for your commencement, the Archbishop of Galilee came to be honored with you. I'm the only Archbishop in the world who can say very humbly but surely, among my parishioners, I have my countryman, Jesus Christ, his mother Mary, the apostles, they are all my parishioners. They are not easy to deal with. Remember that you had a Palestinian to speak to you, to salute you, to wish you for your life, not so much comfort as much as meaning for your life. God does not ask you to succeed in everything, but to persevere to the end. And don't forget that my compatriot, Jesus Christ, while hanging on the cross, did not divert himself from his main goal. He did not react. He acted genuinely, so much that he dared say, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they are doing. I do love the Jews. I hate what they do to us. I do love Israel. I want Israel to live for a long time. But I want to ask the question, what is my socio-political status as a Palestinian in my Palestine that became Israel? Till when will I be a second-class citizen at home? And when you go to the Holy Land, you all like to go to the Holy Land. There is nothing bad in visiting the Holy Sepulchre. There is nothing bad in visiting the shrines, the antiquities, the stones and the dirt. But if that's all what you do, You are going on the margin of reality. Do not forget that there are some living stones still there. 147,000 Palestinian Christians are still living in the Holy Land, and they have a staunch enemy. They risk to disappear, and very soon, because of the ongoing immigration abroad. And we need acts of solidarity with you. I am an international beggar. I came here to beg. And I want you to give me the favor I need. It's not dollars and money. I never begged for money. I begged for friendship, for solidarity, for even-handed politics, and for a balanced attitude towards people in conflict, and very special towards those who have no power to raise their voice and to say, I am not dirty. As the Jewish children in Auschwitz would not have asked for bread and water, they would have only said, we are not dirty, and they were right. I wish you a very fruitful life. I wish you to face challenges without fear. I wish you the courage to say the word of truth in the face of mighty people, and never to flatter the poor in order to win their applause. Poor people do not need flattering. They need sympathy, solidarity, and assistance. I am honored to be with you. I'm so grateful for St. John's University for inviting me, a Palestinian, to tell you that there is hope between Palestinians and Jews. Do not only consider the global, complicated situation, but go humbly to the roots and consider the local situation where we are building with our utmost efforts fraternal relations between Muslims, Druze, Jewish, and Christians. Our Christian schools in Israel, although Christian, and because they are Christians, they are opened to all our Jewish brothers and sisters. They are open to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. We want to be human beings in order to be Christians. Thank you. Thank you so much.
On this commencement day, we celebrate achievements of teaching and learning. I would like to take this occasion to acknowledge 6 professors who today retire from long and distinguished teaching at St. John's. Professor Emeritus Father Kevin Cecils, who's taught theology these last 21 years. Professor Emeritus Sister Helen Rolfson, who's taught theology for 27 years. Professor Emeritus Robert Fulton, who's taught chemistry for 39 years. Professor Emeritus Father Alan Boulay, who has taught theology for 39 years. Professor Emerita Vera Tyson, who has taught French for 40 years. And President Emeritus and Professor Emeritus Father Hilary Timish, who has taught English and served as Dean and President for a total of 50 years. I invite each of these beloved members of the faculty and attendants to stand so we can express our gratitude to them. I also want to thank Dr. Gar Kellum, Vice President for Student Development for the last 16 years, who will leave his post in a few weeks and take up responsibilities as director of the Center for Men's Leadership and Service. Dr. Kellum has treated students and colleagues with great generosity and unflagging dedication for all of these 16 years, and he deserves a round of applause. John Henry Newman once said that a university is, according to the usual designation, an alma mater, a kind, nourishing mother, knowing her children one by one, not a foundry or a mint or a treadmill. And so let us regard the graduates of 2008 one by one as they come forward to receive their degrees.
Will the candidates for the degrees of Master of Arts and Master of Divinity please rise? Brother Dietrich, I present the candidates for the degrees of Master of Arts and Master of Divinity who have been approved by the faculty of the university.
By virtue of the authority committed to me, I confer upon you the degrees of Master of Arts and Master of Divinity, which have been approved by the faculty of the university and for which you have been recommended. Dr. William Cahoy, Dean of the School of Theology and Seminary, please have the candidates come forward.
The degree of Master of Divinity is conferred upon Christie Lee Bivens from Crookston, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Divinity is conferred upon Brent Douglas Heckman from Maria Stein, Ohio. The degree of Master of Arts in Liturgical Music is conferred upon Rose Otilia Burkhart from St. Bonifacius, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in monastic studies is conferred upon Michael Calhoun of the Order of St. Benedict, St. Bede's Abbey, Peru, Illinois. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Christopher Carlson from Maple Grove, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Amber Rebecca Christie from Sauk Rapids, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in systematics is conferred upon John Nicholas Kaufman from Billings, Montana. The degree of Master of Arts in Liturgical Studies is conferred upon Megan Suzanne Enninga from Wilmer, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Liturgical Music is conferred upon John Mark Robert Fielmeyer from Guthrie Center, Iowa. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Anita Marie Fisher from St. Joseph, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in systematics is conferred upon Andrew Robert Gaylord from St. Paul, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Molly Marie Gores from Plymouth, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in monastic studies is conferred upon Arlen Meredith Hansen from Minneapolis, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Jolene Marie Jennison from Plymouth, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Eugene Edmund Kramer from Mora, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Kateri J. Mancini from St. Cloud, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in Scripture is conferred upon Ellie Iona McAllister from St. Cloud, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in Systematics is conferred upon Lauren Leah Murphy from Kansas City, Missouri. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon James Andrew Nepple from St. Cloud, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Liturgical Studies is conferred upon Ren Da Hai from Tangshan, China. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Teresa M. Ressler from Waseca, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in Church History is conferred upon Mark Stephen Rood from St. Louis, Missouri. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in Systematics is conferred upon Jennifer Kathleen Ryan from Chicago, Illinois. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in Scripture is conferred upon Nathan A. Schlepp from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Catherine Scherer Stubbs from Marine on St. Croix, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Hannah Voss from Painesville, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry is conferred upon Patricia L. Watkins from Woodbury, Minnesota. The degree of Master of Arts in Theology with a concentration in Liturgy is conferred upon Michelle Kathleen Weber from Cleveland, Ohio.
Will the candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science please rise? Brother Dietrich, I present the candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science who have been approved by the faculty of the university and the College of St. Benedict.
By virtue of the authority committed to me, I confer upon you the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science, which have been approved by the faculty of the University and the College of St. Benedict, and for which you have been recommended. Dean Joseph Desjardins, please have the candidates come forward.
And may I ask the audience to please withhold applause until all the candidates have received their degrees. Candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with honors. Egregia cum laude, Brett Anthony Biebel, all college honors. Michael Gordon Rubelkey, all college honors. James Gleason Zrust. Summa cum laude, Kevin Herbert Bogle. Andrew Thomas Brever. Eric Gerhardt Gamrat. Philip Lamar Hansen. David Kenneth Horn. Kevin Michael Kingdon. Theodore Clayton Petrosky Leonard, all college honors, distinction in mathematics. Ryan William Majerus. Charles James McCarron, all college honors, distinction in music. David Michael Messer, all college honors. Alexander Michael Reardon. Mitch Daniel Van Bruggen, distinction in nutrition. Andrew Clayton Volbreck. Magna cum laude. Benjamin Dominic Bennett, all college honors, distinction in mathematics. Todd Gregory Benusa. James Robert Berg. Charles Patrick Caven. John Robert Clater. Christopher John Erickson. Sean Patrick Finley. Gregory Stephen Gonzer, all college honors. Daniel Raymond Herscher, all college honors. Eric Paul Holmgren. Timothy Joseph Kennelly. Christopher John Kerber. Thomas Charles Kurzita. Peter James Larson. Stephen Ray Lemke, all college honors, distinction in art. William Robert Macy. Andrew Donald Madsen. Joseph Robert Maylander. Derek Charles Neal. Brandon James Panaz. Michael Thomas Reich Jansen. Peter William Smerinsky. Chad Allen Stang. Nicholas Lawrence Swanson. Jacob Robert Swenson. John Christopher Van Roy. Chase Robert Van Overbeck. Matthew Kirby Voigt, all college honors. Brian James Vonasek. Jason Brian Weigel. Christopher Lawrence Welly. Cum laude, Andrew Michael Baltus. Alexandra Bundalo. Thomas Robert Connolly. Alexander James Ellering. Matthew Edward Hayter. Daniel Martin Hansen. Simon Peter Hansen. John Edward Heinbigner. Cole Anthony Hickman. Jason John Hoffman. Jeffrey Paul Jackson. Peter Michael Jensen. Kyle Mitchell Johnson. Tyler Stephen Krutzig. Christopher Martin Olsem. James Elliott Peterson. David Nicholas Rice, all college honors. Andrew John Rustad. Charles Edmund Sawyer. Zachary Lloyd Smith, distinction in psychology. Matthew Hunt Schwegel. Jeffrey Kenneth Schwinghammer. James Theodore Schockman. David James Shrake. Ryan Michael Snee. Stephen Ryan Vidrine. Justin Grant Wilkes, all college honors. Eric Stephen Woleb. Kyle David Zerbez. Candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science: Thomas Allen Bruns. Christopher Paul Stevens. Alex Daniel Tatone. Dustin Paul Wilford. Candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts: Samuel Russell Abbott. Matthew John Abernathy. Tori Roy Allberg. Jedediah James Anderson. Thomas Howard Anderson III. Scott Michael Applewick. Justin Virgil Ottman. Kurt Edward Oxmacher. Stephen John Babcock. Brady Robert Bach. Mark David Bashand. Dylan Patrick Ballantyne. Michael Patrick Banks. Nicholas Richard Bartholomew. Trevor Ryan Beach. Zachary James Beatty. Daniel Dale Beck. Samuel Stephen Begich. Eric Anthony Bedzinski. Jeffrey David Benusa. John Joseph Burning. Benji James Besser. Jonathan Eric Bierman. Nicholas Philip Bishop. Paul Michael Bivens. Aaron James Blackmore. James Anthony Bockwinkel. Matthew James Bolig. Joseph Michael Brandt. Thomas Ryan Brandt. Richard John Bresnahan III. Brady Joseph Brink. Patrick Joseph Broback. Jason Thomas Broadmerkel. Daniel William Brewski. Spencer Douglas Buchert. Joseph B. Buta. Nicholas Stephen Burns. Andrew Joseph Bursch. Michael Thomas Bussey. Justin Patrick Bicey. Brett Donovan Callanan. Timothy Rock Campbell. Manuel Antonio Savalos. Trevor Augustus Chambers. Jeremy Stephen Chandler. Rajiv Sudhakar Shaflakar. Brian James Chahachik. Colin Joseph Clark. Kevin Carton Clark. Brock Simon Clough. John Carmody Conway. Kevin Gormley Crane. David John Dahl. Jerome Otto D'Alessandro. Clinton Richard Dahman. Colin Nestler Dart. Andrew James Day. Joseph DiGiovanni, distinction in computer science. Peter Eric DeLisi. Benjamin Thomas D. Murray, all college honors, distinction in physics. David Gary Ditz. Carter William Dick. Eric Wright Diley. Alexander David Doring. Samuel Thomas Dorr. Ryan Michael Ducharme. Patrick Jordan Dunlay. William Lawrence Durbin. Patrick John Eagles. Daniel Curtis Ebner. Timothy William Edwards. Theo Albert Edgermont. Paul Richard Ike. Benjamin Wood Eilers. Eric David Ellingboe. Tyler James Engelkey. Corey Allen Erickson. Brian Paul Essling. Mitchell Joseph Eversman. Adam Christopher Farendorf. Michael John Fairchild. Robert Arthur Fondrick. Nathan Michael Farrell. Nicholas Patrick Fay. Corey Joseph Fian. Brent Allen Fenhouse. Kelly John Firmoil. Jason Allen Finley. Luke William Fisher. Mamalu Sla Flinguy. Brian Charles Flood. Alex Patrick Forrest. Jack Anderson Frawny. Thomas Carl Freeman. Christopher Eugene Gabio. Rand William Gallagher. Christopher Mark Gardeski. Mark Stephen Gary. Sam Edward Gavin. Kyle Wesley Gearman. Nathan Lee Geiger. Masaki Genka. Benjamin Aaron George. Robert Allen Garadz, Philip Douglas Ghizzoni, Corey James Geeson, Alan Michael Gleisner, Levi James Glines, Thomas Johnstone Grafsgard, Cameron Brewster Greene, Daniel Joseph Gregus, Jordan Robert Hafis, Austin David Hall, Skylar James Hamill, Aaron James Hansen, Samuel Thomas Harriman, distinction in psychology, Edward George Hart, Nathan Daniel Hartman, Brian Jeffrey Hyman, Benjamin Michael Herman, Benjamin Michael Hezerick, Haith Samir Hazazin, Nathan Michael Hildman, Andrew Davis Hipp, Bradley Aaron Heiss, Nathan John Hoffman, Patrick Vaden Hooper, Kevin Andrew Horner, Louis Howitz, Michael Paul Huffington, Jacob Andrew Vidston, David Carlino Introne, Christopher Murphy Yankee, Nicholas Andrew Jensen, Brian Philip Jensen, Adam Richard Johnson, Andrew North Johnson, Brett Kenneth Johnson, Michael Jeffrey Johnson, Nathan Lawrence Johnson, Nathan Richard Johnson, Nathaniel J. Johnson, Nicholas Ryan Johnson, Michael Robert Johnson, Peter James Jordet, Nathan John Justin, Jason Randall Koss, Benjamin Kevin Kahan, Jonathan Lawrence Kaus, Luke Edward Keene, Jonathan Philip Keeler, distinction in history. Thomas McNevin Kellogg. Timothy John Kelly. Ryan Matthew Kattenacker. Brady Patrick King. Stephen Philip Kiddock. Daniel Scott Klein. Kevin Joseph Klein. Mark C. Knutson. Neil Russell Kaler. John Wilfred Colehouse. Davin Ray Ladd Kokila. Jason Daniel Colas. John Edward Krebsbach. Donald William Kundle. Richard Gerald Lahr. Darren Charles Larson. Andrew Leonard Loudenbach. Samuel James Lauer. Adam Joseph LaVenture. Andrew Carl Lebowski. Thomas Michael LeClaire. Michael Edwin Leiter. Nathaniel John Lepinen. Tobias Augustin Leitner. Ryan Patrick Leiser. Matthew Jacob Litsky. Darren Alexander Lofquist. Nicholas Joseph Loudon. Ross Allen Luagi. Jacob Alexander Lundberg. Mick Carroll Lundstrom. Benjamin Lee Luther. Nathan William McDonald Mackey. Parker James Mertz. Reese Alexander Mankenberg. Andrew Michael Marden. Drew Leroy Martin. Sean Patrick Mace. Adam Dwayne Mossman. Nicholas Robert Masters. John David Meyerhofer, all college honors. Nicholas Keith McCallum. Brian Patrick McKenna. Michael John McNulty. Ryan Peter Major. Nathan Douglas Mines. Daniel Thomas Merkelwitz. Joseph Richard Marinas. Brent Timothy Mergen. Mitchell William Massaros. Jared William Mayer. Zachary Michael Mayer. David Andrew Muir. Andrew Donald Milford. Brian William Mills. Thomas George Mix. Patrick William Moore. Joseph Charles Moravec. Darius Marcellus Morley. Jonathan Allen Mosier. Anthony Paul Musio. Peter Preston Mullen. James Patrick Mern. Robert Quentin Murtaugh. Ryan John Michael Bust. Alexander Matthew Neeson. Benjamin Joseph Nelson. Daniel Scott Nelson. Darrell Ross Nelson. Forrest Nicholas Nelson. Ryan Scott Nelson. Thomas John Nelson. Taylor John Nepper. Chase Alden Newberger. Alan Kuan Yin Ing, all college honors, distinction in numerical computation. Alexander Trin Wynn. Andrew Todd Nealon. Michael Thomas Noss. Nathaniel David Novak. Eric George Neisted. John Paul O'Brien. David Lawrence O'Keefe. John Francis O'Sullivan. Anthony Paul Odlin. Wesley Joseph Olmshank. Benjamin Allen Olson. Ryan Gregory Olson. Daniel Paul Oman. Jonathan Paterio Onhoko. Thomas James Ortman. Brandon Rustle Austin. Jelko Ostojic. Keiichiro Oyama. Michael James Patnode. Bradley Allen Pazian. Richard Moore Peck, Joshua Patrick Peterson, Kyle Edward Peters, Daniel James Peterson, Nicholas Todd Sherman Peterson, Noah Jeffrey Peterson, Daniel Michael Piff, David Paul Pikus, Justin Robert Ploger, Chase Gordon Pollock, Michael Joseph Polt, Jason John Primus, Nathaniel Jerome Tachek, Lance Thomas Rotchi, Justin Kirk Rierick Heflicker, Jacob James Reichert, Adam Daniel Reitz, James Patrick Risted, all college honors, Jeremy Dennis Robb, Giallo Polo Fonseca Rodriguez, distinction in economics. That's close. Matthew Stephen Raj, Peter Christian Rolling, Michael Paul Roll, Daniel Robert Ronchak, Joshua John Rosenbush, David Peter Rothstein, Daniel Keena Reel, Anthony Jess Safford, Asayas McConan Sahali, Brett Stephen Saladin, Stephen Andrew Salvato, Zachary Scott Samuelson, Jeffrey Nell Sandiger, Nathan Alex Sandquist, Ryan David Sandquist, Devin Neal Santos, Joseph Stephen Sass, Adam Christopher Shandell, Adam James Schlepper, Adam Kristen Robert Smelzer, Garrett Michael Schmidt, Jeffrey Wayne Schmidt, Paul David Schmidt, Kevin Christopher Schnazy, Joseph Paul Schoder, Theodore William Shane, Michael David Schottler, Mackenzie David Scow, Jeffrey Thomas Schulte, Michael Philip Schultz, Derek William Schutz, Daniel Richard Sebastian, David James Sexton, Samuel David Sexton, Brian Charles C., Matthew Jacob Sinner, all college honors. Timothy William Skluzacek, Dylan Robert Sletton, David Anthony Slifka, Garrett Blake Son, Aaron Todd Solberg, Derek James Solt, Luke Brian Sorensen, Max Dwayne Sorensen, Adam J. Spooner, Alex Henry Stallman, Patrick Joel Stanaway, Matthew Robert Steele, Michael Todd Steinmetz, Thomas James Steppen, John Francis Stevens, Dusko Stoyanovich, Shea Jeffrey William Stremka, Michael Gary Stum, Matthew Suarez, Ryan James Sufka, John Andrew Sullivan, Jeremy Bates Sutton, Jordan Mark Swan, Zachary Michael Swan, Brian Anthony Sweeney, Patrick Gerald Sweetman, Joshua James Swenson, Justin Francis Swerk, Nicholas Andrew Simon, Christopher Ronald Tholey, Scott Lee Thomas, Matthew Soren Thompson, Timothy Nathan Thompson, Christopher Martin Tiff, Benjamin Rodney Tollefson, Kevin Donald Truler, Anthony John Tufty, Distinction in Liberal Studies, Drew Robert Twaddle, Suleiman Uikani, Gustavo Enrique Villarino Arcentales, Christopher Ray Van Gilder, Michael Paul Van Heel, Kyle Gary Vanselo, Andrew Joseph Vavra, Daniel Gregory Vitale, Anthony Troy Von Ruden, Zachary Paul Waklerowitz, Matthew John Waldorf, Bruce Edward Walkley, Robert Patrick Walsh, Scott Edward Wavanack. Brian John Weber. Christopher John Weber. Matthew Ambrose Weiris. Christian David Welly. Ryan Patrick Welty. Andrew Walter Werner. Jonathan Frederick Worth, all college honors, distinction in music. Reed Robert Wordish. James Gene Wesp. Tyler John Westman. Drew Anthony Wiechek. Joseph Anthony Weekman. Anthony William Wieland. Clay Tyler Wilford. Jacob Stephen Witherby. Brandon Emmanuel Wolf. Cole Stephen Woodward. Patrick James Wata. Cole Richard Willett. Daniel Stephen Yeager. Hua Zwan Yeep. Anthony Michael Zimmerman. Paul Stephen Zipoy. Please join me in a round of applause for the class of 2008.
And now, members of the men's ensemble will sing the alma mater and Gaudiamo Igitur in arrangements by Dr. Axel Timer. Before we leave this place, let us pay tribute once more to the people who have smiled the deepest and now and again may have shed a tear these last several hours. The mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers, brothers and sisters, relatives, and beloved friends of today's graduates. Thank you for all that you have done to make this day possible, and most especially for the love and support which has brought these graduates to this time of fresh, new beginnings. And let us also express our gratitude to the faculty, staff, and administration of St. John's University and their colleagues from the College of St. Benedict who are assembled in the choir stalls behind this podium. The wisdom, dedication, and generosity of this remarkable community of educators are gifts of inestimable value, and they have made possible all that we celebrate today. Let us give them a round of applause. We are about to break out of ritual time. And as we do so, let us put on the armor of light and enter anew into a world in great need of love and service, wisdom and justice. A world where the meaning of what we have celebrated will be an ever-present source of guidance and strength. And now, before we go, we need a song and a blessing to send us on our way. Please stand.
This is a solemn three-part blessing, so I ask you to respond to each part with an amen. I'd ask the graduates to please bow your heads and to pray for God's blessing. I ask all parents and friends and relatives, honored guests, faculty and staff, if you are comfortable with it, to extend your hands with me in blessing for our graduates. May the God of all consolation bless you in every way and strengthen you for the journey ahead. Amen. May you always walk in God's ways, knowing what is right and good, having the grace to carry it out. Amen. May God enrich you with the gifts of faith, hope, and love, so that what you do in this life brings you to the happiness of everlasting life. Amen. And may Almighty God bless you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.